Orgasmic enlightenment, where the sexual and spiritual come together. I'm Kim Anami, and I'm a holistic sex and relationship coach and a vaginal weightlifter. In this show, we explore all things intimate. I believe that our sexual energy is life force, creative energy, and we can use it to shape our worlds, strengthen our relationships, and self-actualize. I blend the most avant-garde information from neuroscience, ancient sexual practices like Tantra and Taoism, to renegade wellness modalities to show you how to create gourmet sex in your lives. Come one, come all. Clitoral orgasms are for amateurs. In the words of the illustrious Chuck Close, clitoral orgasms are for amateurs. The rest of us just get to fucking work. Well, he didn't say that exactly. I've adapted the quote for my purposes. He said, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just get to work. I gotta be honest with ya. I am a clit shamer through and through. I shit on clits. I write sympathy cards to poor, underfucked, so-called sex experts who ply their clitoral orgasm wares. Over the years, one of my main messages has been the holy grail of vaginal, meaning G-spot, squirting, and in particular, cervical orgasms as essential good fuck medicine for all women. These orgasms are far more pleasurable and powerful than their clitoral counterparts. However, you would be amazed at the range of reactions this sentiment evokes. Some people are curious. The most powerful, pleasurable, life-changing orgasms you could ever have? Tell me more. Others are skeptical and they have bought into the sexual misinformation that's out there. But science has never talked about this. Yeah, well, science is rapidly underfucked. And still others are incredibly angry that I would dare to suggest that these orgasms could be had by all. No, they scream in their underfucked, whiny voices. Not all women can. How can you say that? How can you say that women are capable of such incredible pleasure? They go ballistic, foaming at the mouth, losing their shit that someone is telling them that they can have amazing, life-changing orgasms. Well, I do dare, and I've been having them all over the place for over 3 decades. So when I say that I'm a clit shamer, what I'm really a shamer of is the so-called sex experts who apparently know nothing about their own bodies or those of their female partners and believe that the clitoris is the be-all and the end-all. If you are a woman who loves clitoral pleasure, that's great. I'm not shaming you. Only the naysayers who hold onto the clitoris with such a death grip, refusing to put it down and explore the holy land of the vagina. The ones who fight for the right not to orgasm. The clitoris is a great appetizer and a warm-up. It can get your juices flowing and prepare you for your journey, your quest, your vision quest into the ultimate alchemical crucible, which is the promised land of the vagina. But to think that it's the final destination is sheer sexual ignorance. If you find a sexual teacher who is a big clitoral advocate and doesn't speak truth to vaginal pleasure, then
run.
So why would someone do this? Wouldn't you at least be curious? And why would you slam, or obviously not in this case, the possibility so hard? Why would you fight for the right not to have orgasms? Reason number one, I would say, is because you're underfucked. And being underfucked makes you dumb. Your brain doesn't work very well. And if you are only having clitoral orgasms, you are underfucked. The end. The second reason would be that you're afraid to go deeper. You instinctively know that if you pursue vaginal orgasms, you will die and be reborn. You will die 1,000 or 1,000,000 if you have amazing partners, deaths of your ego and little self, and experience the true power of orgasmic enlightenment that can only be found in your vagina. So you stick to the superficial, tepid waters of the clitoris. Think of the symbolism of it. I often say that the clitoris is the tip of the iceberg. It's 10% of the sexual pleasure and power a woman can experience. 90% of all the good stuff is in the vagina. And when I say power, I mean life-changing transformation that rebirths you into the most authentic, self-actualized version of yourself kind of power. Yes, all that and more is found in your vagina. And once you experience it, you never go back. In my salons, I have plenty of women and men with their partners who haven't experienced vaginal orgasms. And then depending on how attached they are, I may need to put them into clitoral rehab. All right, I need you to put the clitoris down, slowly back away from the clitoris, and show them a better way. How do I do this? Well, here are my top 4 tips. First off is yoni massage. Wake up and de-numb the vagina. Some women are afraid to put their fingers into their own vaginas, and that's how effective this sexual psyop has been. It convinces people that their own bodies are a forbidden zone. Plus, so many women have sexual trauma that they simply avoid their vaginas. Getting to know, love, and connect with your vagina is an essential first step to achieving the deeper vaginal orgasms. Yoni massage isn't the same as self-pleasuring. With yoni massage, you're taking the time to explore, play, and have the intention to heal and activate versus just getting off. If your explorations bring you there, that's great, but it's not the main purpose, which is to explore and get to know every millimeter of your vagina and sexual self. All women suffer from some degree of vaginal numbness. Part of this is due to unresolved trauma, and some of it is due to women not being taught to properly exercise or pleasure their vaginas, which we will get to in a moment. So they become weak and they atrophy. And this leads to everything from urinary incontinence to POP to low libido. When your vagina is numb, who wants to have sex when you can't even feel anything? Nobody, no vagina. And this is what could also lead you to feeling like there is more of a point in playing with your clitoris than to even bother with your vagina. And I get it. What's the point? Well, the point is it will change your life. That's the point. I teach yoni massage in my vaginal kung fu and coming together salons, and in the Well-Fucked Woman, you'll learn how to map out different regions of the vagina, stimulate acupressure points. Yep, they have those in the vagina. Release tension and transform your vagina into a sentient, sensitive, and orgasmic portal. Next up would be the jade yoni egg. Ah, yes, a girl's best friend. Nothing beats the jade egg when it comes to the best all-around tool to de-numb, activate, tone, strengthen, build orgasmic sensation, boost libido, restore and increase lubrication, and train for ping pong ball shooting tournaments. Nothing. This quote is from Katie, who I'm going to be featuring in her own episode in the near future because she has an epic story on healing sexual trauma. And she says, I've tried just about every healing modality there is, and nothing has quantum leaped my healing like vaginal kung fu. Long-standing health issues, traumas, and sexual blocks all resolved as if by magic. The magic of my own vagina. Since working with the jade egg, now all the regions of my vagina are awake to sensation, wet, and open. It's like Kim says, I walk around turned on by and for life. Next up is self-pleasuring. As you self-experiment with what feels good, and at the same time you're using a jade egg and playing with yoni massage to feng shui your vagina and awaken it, you'll come to know your own pleasure zones and what arouses you. Your turn on is like a muscle. You flex it and build it until it gives back to you in its strength and power. Think of your sexual energy like superfuel and your vagina as the charging station, full of vital life force energy and sparkling with ecstasy. Every time you self-pleasure, you're going to the source to rev up your energy and bathe yourself in bliss. It's food of the deepest, most nourishing kind. You train yourself to know that your power and your answers lie within, deep within. And of course, clearing your blocks. Everyone has sexual blocks. Your vagina is the barometer for them. If you have unresolved issues from the past, they will show up in your bed and in your vagina. Guaranteed. They look like low libido, lack of lubrication, difficult periods, PMS and menopause, painful sex or vagina on lockdown, urinary incontinence, pelvic organ prolapse, something I talked about last week in the episode A Strong Vagina Keeps the Botox Away is all about energetic leakage. And all of the things I've mentioned so far, these practices and techniques can help you clear your blockages. And there are a plethora of practices I recommend in all of my salons for this as well. The deeper vaginal orgasms are a very special kind of barometer. They only show up when a woman is in full truth and surrender, like an offering you bring to the altar. If you build them, they will come. If you are holding back, if you are afraid, if you are faking it, they won't come. If you are in full throttle, surrender, vulnerability, and honesty, they will explode inside of you, rocking you to your core and shaking the very foundations of who you are. You will arise like the phoenix from the flames and the ashes as all of the false parts of you fall away and the most pure and true ones remain. You emerge as the most authentic version of your deepest self. A sensual, free, joyous, ecstasy-filled, hip-swaying, I can handle anything because I'm unstoppable force of nature. That is what vaginal orgasms give you. If you aren't ready for that and you don't want it, you can stay in the kiddie pool of the clitoris. Or you can dive into the wide open expanse of the wild, tempestuous, powerful sea of life that is your vagina. In today's All-Star segment, we're featuring a selection of well-fucked vaginal superstars, and they all beautifully articulate their journeys and transformation from the clitoris to the vagina, because that's where it all happens. So we have Sarah, Kristen, and Mara.
Well-fucked All-Stars.
It's actually funny because even though I'm not religious, I'm still spiritual and I do believe in God. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to pray and ask God for a sign, because this loathing, it was carrying out into other areas of my life. Like I hated dating. I hated opening myself up because I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin, right, which was really sad. And so I remember literally just praying. I was like, God, angels, universe, whoever, like, can you help me out here? I hate feeling this way. Please send me something to help me feel better about myself. And literally the next day, this girl who I was following her on Facebook, and she's like, oh my God, you guys need to check out this woman. She's lifting a surfboard with her vagina. And this is back in like 2000, I think 14, 15 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? And so I clicked on it and I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's amazing. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was a little bit like freaked out, not in a bad way, but just kind of like, wait, like, how is she doing that though? You know, like, right. And it was, so it was more of a curious thing. And I went to your website and I just gorged all your material, and I was like, oh, she has a salon. And, and I consumed as much of your content as I could. And then I enrolled in your class, G-Spot Ecstasy. And then it was really powerful for me. But then I realized I needed deeper work. Like I needed like a complete rewiring, reprogramming of my subconscious mind, my body, everything. And so then,
just so people understand, like the G-Spot Ecstasy is a 4-week do-it-yourself, focusing on the G-Spot program. And then you're going to, I think, talk about vaginal kung fu as the deeper, longer, more in-depth study. Yeah,
exactly. And G-Spot Ecstasy was amazing, absolutely. But I knew I needed more groundwork because of my past. And so I enrolled in vaginal kung fu, and I learned about jade eggs and lifting things with my vagina and like just all these crazy stuff. And I healed so much, so much. And then right after taking vaginal kung fu, I was like, okay, I want to take Well Fucked Woman, because I felt like it was part 1 and part 2.
Yes,
and it was honestly, Kim, like seriously, it was the sex education I never had that I always needed. And it just completely changed my life. Like I can say that hand on heart. And from that, at the time, I had a boyfriend. We're no longer, together. It's been a couple years. But when I told him about this whole, all these different ways, like that a woman could orgasm, because I always thought that you could only orgasm through your clit and that was it.
Right.
And
like most people think, that's most people's perception. Yeah.
Yeah. And my boyfriend at the time was actually like, no, actually you could have like things called G-spot orgasms. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And he was like, yeah, I'll show you. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know you could do this. And so then I thought that, I needed a man to do it, right? Mm-hmm. But then your work counteracted that and said, no, like you can have a man there, and you can also do it by yourself. And so we just kind of started slow and, worked up to G-spot orgasms. And then my first cervical orgasm I had with him. And then funny enough, like a few weeks later, we ended up breaking up. And I remember being like, oh no, like, can I no longer have these because I'm not dating him? Yeah. But then I just kept going back to your salon and I was like, well, Kim says that she can have them like by someone touching her arm. So like, if she can do that, I know I can. And I just kept telling myself like, and I know it might sound a little crazy, but I would tell myself like, I am a multi-orgasmic woman. I am a well-fucked woman. I would literally say it to myself over and over. And there's so much power in your mind because if you train your mind to believe something, your body will follow. And
vaginal orgasmic affirmations.
Exactly. And then I would tell myself that I was like, I have a woke as fuck vagina. And that's when I just kept telling myself that over and over. Like,
a woke as fuck vagina. That's such an awesome one. I love it.
Exactly. And so I just kind of kept telling myself that, following your salon, like just doing everything you said. And I was like, she's right. She was right. And I started having them on my own. And it was in that moment I knew, even though I was grieving the heartbreak of this person that we were no longer together, I knew I was going to be okay. Not because I could just now have all these orgasms, but I felt like, I feel healed. I feel like I have access to something that I didn't have before. And I honestly felt like, in a way, I felt closer to God. Maybe for someone that's spirit, source, divine, whatever you believe in, but I felt closer to God. And I was like, wow, like he didn't, make this to be bad. He made this to be pleasurable. Like I wouldn't have the capability to do that if it wasn't in me, right. And so it just completely changed my life. So thank you.
Well, that's amazing. And I love that you liken it to, or talk about it being, a spiritual experience, because that was my own journey from the very beginning, like having my first cervical orgasm, which was actually the first orgasm I ever had, and feeling like I was in this transcendent, ecstatic, super, like all is one kind of place. And that's how we describe them, as being these super powerful connectors. And the idea, at least in Tao Taoist sexology is that the cervix, the point there is connected to the vagus nerve, which goes all the way up to the crown chakra and is often referred to as the spiritual nerve of the body. And that when we activate that energy, it goes all the way up to the crown chakra through the heart. So it helps to open the heart, and we also need an open heart. And then it really just explodes out where we attain this sense of enlightenment from these orgasms. And that's why I say that these are some of the most powerful self-actualizing and personal growth tools that women have available to them. And they only make us better people. And if women aren't having cervical orgasms, I'd say they're operating at a deficiency, right? Because you don't have this extremely powerful tool and shortcut to these wild, amazing, higher level places in ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you talked about that, for me, it came from a place of, it was the most powerful tool I had for personal transformation and spiritual evolution, because not only did it heal me from the inside, but also the outside. And that's I think what your work is based on. You can't sugarcoat stuff. You can't just treat a symptom. We're going to the root of the issues here. And cervical orgasms, what they do is they amplify, at least in my experience, they amplify your life and all the good things. But then it's almost like dusting off these old cobwebs and these dirty, files that you haven't really looked at, and it causes you to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And like you said, it's this self-actualizing tool that it's just completely transformational.
Beautifully said. Yeah. And, I look at them as, over the years, ways that I've worked through trauma and processing, like you said, to process even your breakup. They're really good at going through acute situations. We take our grief, our stress, our unresolved trauma, we take it into the vagina, and it works as this alchemical cauldron to transform it into power, into bliss, into wisdom. And we also were able to release these things. One of the hallmarks of cervical orgasms is tears, having these, sometimes often deep, guttural, crying tears that we often don't even know the source of. And we don't need to know the source of. All we need to do is follow that trail into that feeling and then allow it to overtake us and then move through us. And so it's this incredibly deep portal and vessel for transformation if we are able to go there. And I think another real pivotal piece of getting to cervical orgasm is courage, because when you're standing at this abyss of emotion or what unknown, you have to keep going. That's a real trait of them, is that a lot of women maybe come up to this place in themselves and they feel some kind of fear, or there's, like I said, a giant abyss, and so they pause and they contract and they hold back, and so they don't go there. And I think the real price of admission is this sense of courage and continuing to open and continuing to trust and fall. And I think that cervical orgasms are so much like spiritual experiences, because they're the same concept of opening to a power, opening to an energy greater than you, whatever your spiritual belief system is, whether it's a traditional religion or you're just, have a spiritual concept of life, that you're opening, thy will be done. This energy, this presence has some kind of greater knowledge and wisdom than us, and we open to that. And that's the same thing with the trust in the orgasm. In God and orgasm we trust.
Amen to that. No, and I love what you said about it taking courage, because so I'm fascinated by words and languages, and I just love it. And the Latin word for courage, it means cur, and it means the heart. And that's what I felt like cervical orgasms did for me, was it opened up my heart, just opened and opened it and opened it. And that's, I think, part of the formula to having them, is you have to have an open heart, and they can help you open your heart. Because after my boyfriend and I broke up, I was really in love with this guy. I was the best girlfriend I could have ever been, and my friends, after we broke up, they were like, oh, well, just like go date another guy. And I was like, no, like I'm not going to get under someone to get over somebody else. Like I
Right.
need to process this. Like I need to get through it. And whereas he took that route and then never dealt with the hurt and the pain of it, and is apparently still dealing with that. Whereas me, I feel completely healed of it, stronger than before. But it, I think that that's what one of the greatest tools you can have is if you're going through heartbreak, like have cervical orgasms or take salon, Ken's salon, everyone, so that you can learn how to have them and you'll be just fine. They're the ultimate heartbreak healer.
Yes, absolutely. So, can you describe for us how do cervical orgasms feel to you? Like physically, emotionally, spiritually? You've touched a bit on the spiritual element, but how do
Mm-hmm.
they also feel in these other realms?
Sure, yeah. It's kind of interesting because I remember when I first learned that they were even possible, because I didn't even know I had a cervix until I was like 19, 20 years old, because all I was taught was I had a vagina. So I
Right.
didn't know any anatomy on that. So for me physically, they're nothing like a clitoral orgasm. Clitoral orgasms, for anyone listening, they kind of remind me of like when you walk up like a little 15-foot ledge and then you like jump off like a 10-foot waterfall and it's like woo, whereas and then like it's done, like goodbye. Whereas a cervical orgasm, to me it feels like you're just going like further and deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're vibrating and it's consuming, it's powerful, and it spreads throughout the entire body. It's like this orgasmic, spiritual, enlightening, intense, but also safe in a way climax, and it lasts longer. For me, I've had them last for hours at times. Not every single time, but they're definitely something that you feel throughout your entire body, and it's like you just got this like incredible massage, spiritual tune up, and like you just let out all these tears of emotion that you don't even know what you were crying about. um, and it just feels incredible. I've never had anything feel like it, so it's kind of hard to compare it to something else because it's not like anything else. And I just always, every time I have one, I feel healed. I feel like everything's going to be okay and everything is safe. But it's not like a clitoral orgasm where it's centrally located to the vagina. It's literally just like inside out, every fiber of your being, all your cells, your hair, your eyelashes, everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it. And, it's hard, in some ways, it's hard to describe it physically because it's physical, but to me, it's always felt mostly spiritual, like an energetic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, there's
Yeah.
physical pleasure. It's like a full, like if you take a clitoral orgasm and spread it throughout your entire body, like there's a sense of it being a full body orgasm. But
Mm-hmm.
what's even stronger than that is more like what you said, like waves of bliss and pleasure, but like this sense of serenity and deep faith in the world. Like you
Right.
just said, like everything is safe and everything's going to be okay. And that's what it's like, having the most open, full heart you've ever had, and multiply that by 10 and spread it all over your whole body. Like you said, every cell.
Right.
And then you're existing on this
Right.
different plane, like everything that you do. Like I remember after some of those early experiences for me, like going out into the world after and feeling like I was floating, or I was in this divine, absolute trust and faith, and like every iota of circumstances in the world was lining up in this divine spiritual way. And I had insight into that and utter faith in life, versus
Exactly.
like kind of an anxiety, scurrying kind of mentality or way of being that many people, I think, exist in. It's very different, and that to me is like the most powerful part of it. Like, and that's why I've always sort of downplayed the importance of clitoral orgasms because, like you said, it's like a quick hit and then a drop and then it's over, and I've never really
Right.
felt like they contributed to my betterment as a person or to the betterment of my life. And
Right.
because, for me, I was fortunate to have had cervical orgasms so early on that was my template. This is what
Right.
sex is. This is what orgasms are. And it wasn't
Right.
until a few years later, even, that I experienced a clitoral orgasm, and I was like, "Oh, this is fun, but like this isn't really an orgasm. Like,
Right.
like this is
Exactly.
whatever, like good for a kick, But like this isn't really what orgasms are all about."
Yeah, exactly. Clitoral orgasms, I think they're good for like when you go and visit in-laws and like family members who are kind of annoying, and you're like, okay, there's no, because I don't do drugs or drink or anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna, go smoke a cigarette. Let me go to the bathroom and like touch my clit for a minute. And then like, okay, now I have like a little bit of a way to mentally process being around these annoying people. But that's, I think, what they're good for, in my opinion.
Well, I
But
use them for my coffee breaks, right? Like I
yeah,
talk about stimulating the clitoris, similar to what you're saying, like to get a burst of energy, to get a
yeah,
hit. I don't do coffee, I do orgasm. So I'll go and
right,
stimulate myself to get this sense of pleasure and bliss and rejuvenation, but it's not the deep, life-changing version of that vaginal orgasms and especially cervical orgasms would give a person. So there's a
exactly.
time and a place, but to me, like the real pursuit, the real holy grail is cervical orgasms.
Well fucked all stars.
I speak extensively about the connection between sex and spirituality, and even that notion can be quite taboo and confronting for people, where I see them as very much the same energy and the same process of opening and surrendering to this greater energy and letting go of the little self and tapping into like the larger spiritual dimensions of us. So what is that like
Right.
for you? Like that you can be closer to God through sex?
Well, namely, I just was getting the message a lot this year in my meditations, and things were just coming into my field, whether that be through your work or other people, that trauma and other things are stored in the body. I think you quote Wim Hof a lot, the issues in our tissues.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I just kept getting that repeatedly, like, get into the body, get into the body. And like learning that self-pleasure was a way to do that. I was like, sign me up. Like, I'll, I'll spend more time with myself if that's what it means. I can
That's what it's
have,
gonna take.
if that's what it's going to take. Yeah. So it became this like catharsis for me, like, especially when I was having, well, first of all, I wasn't really in touch with myself. I was very disconnected from my body, and it's still a journey, but like my vagina was numb, like you talk about a lot of women dealing with, and I'd had trauma down there, and anyway, so I was just very disconnected, and getting to know myself that way. Also, just I hadn't ever really explored there. So I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but it became like a catharsis, because sometimes I might have, I mean, it didn't have to be a rough day, but particularly or especially if I was having a rough day, I tried to utilize my spare time to spend time with myself, just loving myself, like the way you talk about just touching yourself in a loving way. I don't know, I guess it's something that I have forgotten over time, spending time actually appreciating different parts of my body, and not just going straight for the O, but taking time and really loving Kristen, as corny as that sounds. But yeah, and then when I would get to climax, using, some of the other techniques learned, and I would sometimes either start crying like uncontrollably, or I'd have this crazy amount of energy buzzing around me. And I even had a handful of times where my ears would start ringing like crazy. I don't know if that's anything, but it just felt like all of the demons were being released. And then I felt refreshed. And that happens in the bedroom with my husband too. I actually, before I found your work, I believe that I have had cervical orgasms in the past with him, and I just did not know it. Because there were like 2 or 3 times years ago where I had that experience where I just burst into tears after, not after, in the middle of sex. And I remember feeling like so embarrassed and like wanting it to stop. But now, after hearing what, everything that I've learned from your salon and just all of your podcasts and everything, I know that it's one of the greatest treasures that can happen in the bedroom. And I aim for that, actually.
Yeah, it's one of the best purging, like you say, catharsis tools that we have available to us and at our fingertips, right? So when you said, like, if you have a rough day or a sense of something needing to be released, is that you can go straight to your vagina and tap that and then tune into that energy and allow it to cleanse, right? To cleanse
Right.
and rebirth us. And then the parallel. So what does that feel like to you? Like, presumably then in that rebirthing, you're feeling closer to God. And how would you describe that? How does that feel to you?
Well, I know with my husband, it's like, this is such a like hopeless romantic thing to say, but it feels like our souls are merging as as one almost. And like there's nothing like it. Like, no other orgasms are like that. It's like I'm in the cosmos and I can just feel the pure vibration of love and the universe filling my entire body from head to toe.
That's really, really beautiful. And did you have more primarily clitoral orgasms before you did this work? Okay.
Yes.
And so how would you describe the difference? Like, before, like, what were your clitoral orgasms like? How would you categorize them and like compare them to now having, I mean, I think you've done that, but I guess I'm asking you to do it a little more like overtly as a comparison, like before and after, right? Clitoral orgasms are the before, and then it's life after having these deeper vaginal orgasms.
I don't feel as connected with my husband when that happens. I mean, the sex is still good, sure, but it's not
Life-changing.
it's like, yeah, it's not it's not life-changing, it's not mind-blowing. It's like the cervical ones I'm thinking about for like the next handful of days, and I can almost like feel it happening again in the days following if I hearken back to
Right.
that night. And with the clitoral ones, it's like a quick zip up to the top and a nosedive off, I guess. And I can have more than one, but they get weaker and weaker, I suppose. It's the only way I can describe it. And also, I'm not as lubricated when I am just having the clitoral ones. I've noticed, like, when I'm having the deep vaginal ones, it's like I'm dripping all over the place.
Well fucked all stars.
Welcome, Mara. I am delighted to have you here today.
Thank you, Kim.
So
happy to be here.
Yeah, you and you super pussy. Let's talk all about that.
We are so happy to be here.
There we go. Yes. So there's so many elements of your experience that really speak to this idea of having a super pussy, and some in particular that many women might buy into, thinking because of this, because of that, oh, they wouldn't be able to qualify for having a super pussy. Yet the Anami guarantee is that all women can. And so I'd love for you to speak to some of those myths, especially, and then your whole journey going from clitoral orgasms to epic cervical orgasms, and really leaning into your intimate connection and the power of your pussy to fuel your life.
Absolutely. So I think I'll start from like the beginning. My husband and I would get in these fights, and it was like, I'm not satisfied. And he would be like, well, I don't know how to satisfy you. What do you want? And I would be like, well, I don't know. I literally did not know what I needed. I would have clitoral orgasms with a vibrator only during intercourse. And like, I thought that was it, you know? And so I don't even know how I came across your course. I really cannot. It was divine intervention, I'm sure, because I don't remember Googling anything about sex. I don't remember anything, but I found your page and I was like, I need to do this. So I'd never heard of cervical orgasms before. I thought G-spot was a myth from rap songs, honestly. And so at the beginning of your course, I was afraid to like even touch myself. Like your daily self-pleasure challenge was a hell no for me. I was like, yeah, that's not happening. I can't even so I started just like with massaging my legs and my arms and my belly and my butt. And I did this every day. I was like, this I can do this every day. And then when I finally was able to give attention to my vagina, it was like, oh my God, it's numb. It's completely numb. Like I have no feeling there. And so once I realized that that's what was going on, I was like, all right, Dave, we got to have lots of sex. So we got to work. I had just had I don't know if you want me to get into that now, but I just had my baby. And it was like, when I committed to it, he was 4 days old. And I wrote an email to one of your staff and I was like, hey, I just had a baby and my doctor says I shouldn't have sex, but I feel like I want to. And someone responded and was like, if you're feeling good, go ahead. And so I did. And I didn't look back from there. It was just lots of practice and unnumbed my vagina. And yeah.
So something that I thought was wonderful about your story was that you were 8 months pregnant when you began the salon,
right.
And then shortly, and even that, right? Many people might feel like, well, I've got this baby coming, I can't take this on right now. But you were like, not more than ever. I need to do this.
Right.
You know, yeah, and it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. This is like,
it was not a convenient time.
Right. And you took it on anyway. And then, as you said, that after having the baby, you were still in that zone of commitment. Like, we need this. I need to do this. And you've described feeling, tired and stuck and frustrated, but that you kept that commitment going and you just took on all the practices in the salon and, seized it. And I love, especially you shared how with you and your husband, that even if you were exhausted from staying up all night with the baby, you would still have sex. If you felt the baby blues coming on, you would have sex and then end up having a cervical orgasm. If you were breastfeeding, you would still have sex. Like all of these things that
while we were having sex, breastfeeding during sex.
Right. Multitasking.
Yeah. It was like, oh, the baby's awake, but we're not done yet. So, I still do that. He actually, it's getting, so I was mentioning to you, like, I'm in a bit of a funk now. So like, he started breastfeeding, or sorry, he's starting to get older now. He's 5 months. And so like, when we're, in the throes of passionate sex, I'm making loud noises and he kind of gets scared. And so like, we're having to try and figure this out. I'm like, okay, now like we need to maybe like get a babysitter or like, plan these sex dates out a little more. Whereas before it was like, we would just plow through whatever, like baby's awake, let's just keep going. Like, yeah. Because I knew that after we had sex, my baby blues would go away. I knew that after we had sex, I could still make it through the rest of the day for my 4 older kids on 2 hours of sleep. Like, no problem. It would energize me. It would make me feel happy. Like I had all the patience in the world. Oh, thank you.
And that's the thing, that the proof is in the pudding, that having that kind of cataclysmic, really deep, gourmet, cervical orgasm type sex gives you energy. And so where the common excuse or refrain would be, if we stay up and have sex, I'll be tired for tomorrow. Where the opposite is true, that even if you have hardly any sleep, that's right, if you're having this deep sex, it rejuvenates you to such a degree that you have tenfold the energy, tenfold the creativity, tenfold the patience to do everything you need to do in your day.
Yeah, exactly.
So you had thrown in there that you also, so you have 5 children. You have a very young baby.
I do.
You have 4 older, I don't know how old your children are, but 4 other children. And again, these are things that in the realm of super pussy, many women have bought into the mythology that, if you have too many babies, your vagina will be shot. If you have a baby in general, you won't want to have sex, right? Your libido will be shot.
Right.
And that it's basically this, cornucopia of excuses and rationalizations why we can't get to these places. And I love that you have just flown in the face of all of that to triumph, despite having these things that in that allopathic mythology would be considered legit, why you wouldn't have these experiences and probably could never. Right? As a woman who's had 5 children, your vagina,
Absolutely.
according to that ethos, would be written off. Bye-bye. Never again.
You've had your fun. Go ahead and retire.
Yeah, that's right. You'll never have sex again or enjoy it again. Poor you. Oh, well, maybe we can sew some plastic in your vagina for you at some point. Yeah,
oh, no.
Like the total idiocy. And instead, so this is what I really want to throw out there to people listening, is that this is possible for all women. A super pussy is possible for all women at every stage and any age of their lives. And Mara is living proof of that.
Yes. I need to mention, I had a cervical prolapse after my 4th child. And they said, at some point you're going to need to get this fixed, and it's fixed, like, already. So like, that's, we're good. It's all good. My doctor was like, oh, this is not a thing anymore. I was like, no, it's not.
What would you attribute
you've been
that?
going to, pelvic floor therapy? I was like, well, sort of, I've been doing jade egg practices. I've been having a lot of orgasms. I've been, it just strengthening my pussy basically. And I would definitely attribute it to that. But going back to what you said, so like your libido, right? I wanted to talk about that a little bit because your libido, like my sex drive, was like akin to my drive in my life. So like if I had low sex drive, I also had a low life drive. Like I wasn't super excited about life. And so the two go hand in hand. I don't know for everybody, but for me. And so I needed, when I said like I needed this, it was mostly because just the results in my daily life that I wasn't happy with. And so I knew that like if I could nail this, then I would be happier in my regular life. And like, it's absolutely true. Like all of this work that I've been doing sexually and personally has transformed into my daily life. Like I've just opened a bakery and it's becoming very successful. I've started hosting monthly women's circles and having really great results with that. And these are things that I never had the drive to do before. And I never thought, especially with, children, that I had the time and energy to do. But like I hosted my first big bakery event when my baby was a week old. Like who does that?
Oh my
and I was
gosh.
just like, I was super like, let's do this. I made 100 cinnamon rolls and like, and we had a great time. And everybody was like, I can't believe you're doing this. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. This is not normal. Like, and it's because I was having orgasms. Like, I was like, I have the energy. And so I'm going to use that energy to do what I want to do. It's fantastic.
This is so epic because, you're talking about, you started the salon, let's say 8 months pregnant, right? So you've got maybe 4 weeks or so before you have your baby. You're having, you said you gave birth 5 weeks early.
I did.
Holy moly,
I gave
just
birth
a week into the salon.
Like a week into the salon. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you'd only been doing this work for like what, 2 to 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you really are a vaginal and epic superstar. So you're doing this work for a few weeks. It says here, so I'm just reading some of the stuff that you've written, because you only had clitoral orgasms in the past, and then you had and even those were few and far between. And then you had your first cervical orgasm on your birthday when your baby was 6 weeks old.
Yeah. It was pretty exciting. I did not know what to expect because I didn't know what a cervical orgasm was. So I'm like sobbing and he was like, are you okay? I'm like, I think so. And then I just sobbed for like 20 minutes. And then I was like, that was amazing. That I am changed. So yeah, that was a pretty good birthday present.
That was a very beautiful birthday present that you allowed yourself to have. I love it that you gave to yourself. And now you're in a place where you can have like 5 cervical orgasms in one session.
Yeah. Yep. It's pretty amazing.
How inspiring are these all-stars? I love the way they talk about their cervical orgasms and how they act as these alchemical transformers, elevating not only their sex life, but every part of who they are. This episode was brought to you by the Jade Yoni Egg. This is the premier tool on the market for all things super pussy because, yes, it is normal to have a lubricating, orgasming, and ejaculating vagina every day of the week. Side effects of the Jade Egg include multiple orgasms, vaginal orgasms, ejaculatory orgasms, increased lubrication, increased libido, an easier childbirth and faster recovery, ecstatic pleasure and sensation, boosted self-confidence, the reversal of urinary incontinence, easier periods, PMS, and menopause. This life-changing magical egg is found at kiminami.com and Anami Alchemia, my legendary vaginal kung fu salon where I take you through full mastery of the Jade Egg and all things vagina. Opens for registration on January the 18th. You can check out my free preview video series for the salon where I give you a technique that you can try tonight to strengthen and tone your vagina. Some people have success with these things on the very first day of practice. Go to kiminami.com, look for Sexual Savant Salons, and click on Vaginal Kung Fu. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, subscribe and also leave a review. And send someone else the gift of a healthy libido and an off-the-charts love life by sharing this episode with them. We'll be back next week, and in the meantime, many happy orgasms.